Hello learners, and welcome to your mathematics lesson. Let us look at the number and identify the symbol of each number. 10, 156, 200, 390, 444, 523, 678, 714, 899, 937, 1000. Let us read the number names out aloud. 15, 45, 79, 168, 249. Now let's look at some examples. When we are writing the number symbols for each of the following, we need to read carefully and understand what we are reading in order to write the correct number symbol. So let's see if we can do this together. Number 1, 257. One hundred and 94, 335, 821, 911, and the last one is 1000. Describe, compare, and order whole numbers. So here we have to say whether it is more than, less than, or equal to. When we are doing more than, less than, and equal to, we must remember that the symbol for more than points to our right hand side, which tells us that the number is increasing or getting bigger. The symbol that says less than is when the symbol points to the left hand side. This tells us that the number is getting smaller or decreasing. Number 1, 54. Is it more than, less than, or equal to 67? It is. 54 is less than 67. Number 2, 234 is more than 123. 340, is it more than, less than, or equal to 340? It is equal to. Now let's look at page 5 in the workpack. It says write the following symbols. Say if the number is more than, less than, or equal to. 2.1 is 644. Is it more than or less than 233? It is more than 233. We are going to look at putting the following numbers in the correct order from smallest to biggest. So remember, when we're putting the numbers in order, we need to read the question carefully, because this question says from smallest to biggest. So when we say smallest to biggest, we need to look for the smallest number and count forwards and see what number comes next all the way to the last number. And when we are doing biggest to smallest, we need to look for the biggest number and then count backwards and find which number goes next. So let's do the first one. It says put the following numbers in order from smallest to biggest. We've got the numbers 189, 345, 276, 478, 598, and 67. So which number do you think is the smallest? Yes, 67. So that means we are going to be counting forwards and we are going to see which number come next. 189, 276, 345, 478, and our last number will be 598. Number 2, put the following numbers in order from biggest to smallest. Remember when we said biggest to smallest, we said we have to look for the biggest number and count backwards. So let's go through the numbers: 89, 45, 374, 294, 457. So which number do you think will be the biggest number? Yes, 457. So we're going to start with 457 and now we're going to count backwards and see which numbers are there that we need to fill in. 374, 294, 89, and 45. Okay learners, now we are going to look at our work pack at page 5 in our work pack. It says arrange the following in order from smallest to biggest. So remember we said for smallest we need to look for the smallest number and count forwards to the biggest number. So let's go through the numbers. 182, 666, 542, 767, 983, and 10. So which is the smallest number? Yes, 10. So we're going to start with the number 10 and then we're going to look for the next number, which will be, yes, 182, 542, 666, 767, and the last number, which is the biggest number, is 983. Okay, now we're going to move on to place value. So we're going to move on to decomposition. So let's recap. Decomposition is breaking up the numbers into 100, tens, and units. We can also decompose two-digit numbers into tens and units. So let's see the first example, number 1, 345. What do you think our 100, tens, and units will be? Yes, 300 plus 40 plus 5. Number 2, 267. Let's break that number up. 200 plus 60 plus 7. Number 3, 489. 400 plus 80 plus 9. So we can see that our hundreds column, our tens column, and our units column, which is a single digit. Okay, let's look at page 5 in our work packs. Decompose the following. So we've got 576 there. We will decompose it into 100, tens, and units, which is 500 plus 70 plus 6. Okay, now we're going to look at the value of the digit. When we say value of the digit, what does that number hold? Is it hundreds? Is it tens? Or is it units? So if we look at number 1, it says 385, but only the 8 is underlined. So what do you think the 8 stands for, or what is the value of that number 8? Yes, it is 80. Number 2, 437. The 4 is underlined, which is 400. And the last one, number 3, 89. The 9 is underlined. So the value of that digit is 9. We are going to move on to the breaking up method. Now remember, when we did the breaking up method, we said there are 3 steps to the breaking up method. So let's recap. The first example is 385 plus 123. So when we're using our 3 steps, our first step is we must break up the numbers into 100, tens, and units. Our second step is we must add all the numbers together. That means the 100, the tens, and the units. And the third step is that we will get our final answer. So if we break up the numbers into 100, tens, and units, for our first step, we've got 300 from 385 and 100 from 123. So now we've broken up the hundreds column. So let's break up the tens column. So from 385, we're going to take 80. And from 123, we are going to take 20. So 80 plus 20. And now we are left with the last numbers, which is the units column, which is the 5 and the 3. So 5 plus 3. Now if we go to our second step, we need to add all the hundreds column, the tens column, and the units column. So let's start. 300 plus 100 is 400, plus 80 plus 20 is 100, plus 5 plus 3 is 8. And if we add 400 plus 100 plus 8, it will give us 508. Please don't forget that your brackets are very important when you're doing the breaking up method, because the brackets show how you have separated the hundreds, the tens, and the units, how you broke those numbers up and you added it separately, as well as the sign. Don't forget, remember the sign. If it's an addition sum, we put plus because we're adding the numbers in the brackets. And on the outside of the brackets, the plus sign stays the same. Now let's look at page 6 in the workpack. It said expanded notation, adding and subtracting using the breaking up method. So we've done one example. So now let's try number 1 and see how we could do that one. So we've got number 1 is 523 plus 356. So if we use the breaking up method in the steps, so step 1 is we have to break up the numbers into 100, tens, and units. So 500 plus 300 plus 20 plus 50 plus 3 plus 6. Now the second step is if we add all of that, 500 plus 300 is 800, 20 plus 50 is 70, and 3 plus 6 is 9. And our last step, we need to add 800 plus 70 plus 9 will give us 879. So let's do another example. 511 plus 126. We are going to use the same 3 steps. Remember, we have to break the numbers up into hundred, tens, and units from both sides of the digits, from 511 and from 126. So let's break up the numbers. So it will be 500 plus 100 plus 10 plus 20 plus 1 plus 6. So there, our first step is already done. Now let's move on to our second step, where we have to add all the hundreds together, all the tens together, and all the units together. So 500 plus 100 is 600, 10 plus 20 is 30, and 1 plus 6 is 7. So our last step is we have to add the 100 tens and units together to give us our total number. 600 plus 30 plus 7 is 637. Okay, now let's recap on subtraction. When we're using the breaking up method to do subtraction, we follow the same steps as we have done the addition. The only difference is that when we break up the 100, tens, and units and put it into our separate brackets, we are not adding anymore. We are minusing the hundreds together, the tens together, and the units together. The only thing that we will add, or where we will add and bring down the plus or addition sign sum, is in the second step. So the first step is that we need to break the 100 tens and units up from 365 minus 223. So what will our hundreds be? Yes, 300 minus 200. Our tens, 60 minus 20, and our units, 5 minus 3. So now for our second step, you can see we've brought down the addition sign there, but we still need to minus or subtract. So 300 minus 200 is 100. 60 minus 20 is 40, and 5 minus 3 is 2. Now we are going to add 100 plus 40 plus 2 will give us 142. Now let's look at page 6 in our workbook. It says subtracting. So we've done one example. So let's do number 1. Number 1 says 654 minus 553. So our first step, we said that we are going to minus. So it will be 600 minus 500 plus 50 minus 30 plus 4 minus 3. So our second step is the minusing. 600 minus 500 is 100. 50 minus 30 is 20. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So our last step, our number will be, we need to add the 100 plus 20 plus 1. So our final answer will be 121. Okay, learners, let's move on to problem solving sums. So here's the problem solving sum. Luca has 204 apples, which he needs to put into 4 bags. How many apples will go into each bag? So the first thing we need to do is we need to read the problem solving sum carefully, and we need to ask ourselves that what is this problem solving sum is asking us to do. Is it asking us to share it? Is it asking us to add it? Is it asking us to subtract it? Is it asking us to multiply it? What is this problem sum really asking us to do? Yes, it is asking us to share. So which sentence or which words tell us that this is a sharing sum? He needs to put into 4 bags. Yes, he needs to put 204 apples into 4 bags. That tells us that it is a sharing sum. Also, the question, how many apples will go into each bag? That also tells us that it is a sharing sum. Remember, when we are doing problem solving sums, we need to show our working to understand how we worked out the problem solving sum. So how do you think that we can show our working to this problem solving sum? What do you think would be our first step to do? Yes, we need to draw 4 bags. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now our second step is to share our 204 apples. How do you think we can share the 204 apples? Because now we know how to count in tens, we know how to count in 20s, we can count in 50s. Can we count in 50s? Yes, it'll make it much more easier. So we give 50 to one bag, 50 to the second bag, 50 to the third bag, and 50 to the fourth bag. So if we add this up, 50 plus 50 is 100, plus 50 is 150, plus 50 is 200. So we already gave 200 apples out of 204 apples. So how many apples do we have left to share? 4. Yes, so we're going to give each one 1. Now we're going to count in each bag how many apples are there to make sure that each bag have an equal amount of apples in them. So the first bag, 50 plus 1 is 51. Second bag, 50 plus 1 is 51. Third bag, 50 plus 1 is 51. And fifth bag, 50 plus 1 is 51. Now we've got to write our number sentence. So our number sentence will be 204 divided by 4 is equal to 51. Please don't forget the sign. And then we will write each bag will have 51 apples. Okay, learners, let's look at page 7 in the workpack. It says problem solving. Number 1, Lisa baked 136 cookies and she wants to pack them in 8 boxes. How many cookies will Lisa put in each box? Don't forget to write the sum and the number sentence. So now we said that we need to ask ourselves, what is the question asking us? The question is asking us to share. So what are we going to share? We're going to share the 136 cookies into 8 boxes. What tells us that is the sentence she wants to pack them in 8 boxes, as well as the question, how many cookies will Lisa put in each box? So we know that Lisa has 136 cookies and she needs to pack them in 8 boxes. So our first step is to draw the 8 boxes. Now we need to share the 136 cookies. So we know how to count in 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 10s, as well as 20s, 50s, and 100s. So we're going to use one of those counting styles to show our working, and also to put the cookies in each box instead of drawing circles. So we can count in tens. Can we use tens? Can we use 20s? Or can we use 2s, 3s, and 4s? Yes, we can use tens. So we're going to give 10 cookies in each box. And then we're going to split the balance and see. Now we can give 7 to each box. So now we're going to count and see if each box has the same number of cookies, because if the number is one more or one less, your sharing is wrong or your counting is wrong, then you need to go back and redo the whole step as well. Okay, because all the boxes need to have the same amount in them. So if we look at our boxes, each box has 17. 10 plus 7 is 17. So now we're going to move on to writing our number sentence. So 136 divided by 8 is 17. Then we're going to write our sentence. Each box will have 17 cookies. Now learners, we are going to look at time, and remember we have the big yellow clock in the classroom which we use, and we have done the o'clock, quarter past, half past, and quarter to. Now remember we spoke about the clock and we spoke about the needles. The small needle tells us the hours and the big needle tells us the minutes. So if we look at this clock now, what time is it telling us? Or what time are we going to read on the clock? Yes, it's telling us that it is 8:30. Now, the small needle tells us the hour, it is 8 o'clock, and the big needle tells us it's at 6. So, if we look at the clock and we've done minutes, we said that there are 60 minutes in an hour, so half of 60 will be 30 minutes. So 6 tells us that it is 30 minutes. So the time reads 8:30. Now we are going to look at some examples. So remember we said the small needle tells us the hour and the big needle tells us the minutes. So let's read what's on the first clock. It says it's 5 o'clock. The second one, the minutes needle is by 3. So because we said there are 60 minutes in an hour, if we count in 5s, 5, 10, 15, 3 will be 15. So it's 1:15 because the small needle is telling us it is 1 o'clock. The next clock tells us it is 8:30, and the last clock tells us it is 6:15. The big needle is by 9 and the small needle is by 6. Remember we said on the clock, when you read the clock and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is past the hour. And we said that 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is 1:45 because it's going to the next hour. Now learners, look at page 9 in the work pack. Time, it says draw the clock pointers in and write the time for each of the clocks. So we're going to do the first one. The first one says 4:30. So where will our big needle be? Our big needle, which is our minutes needle, will be at 6 because there are 60 minutes in an hour and half of 60 is 30. And our hours needle, which is our small needle, will be at 4. Now learners, don't forget to complete the rest of this in your work pack. And this brings us to the end of our mathematics lesson.